have everyone's attention? Thank you. As you all know, today is District 74 Lincolnwood's school board debate. There are a total of 7 candidates running. Only 4 are present today. What makes this day interesting is that a year ago on this very day, Mark Kleisner resigned, and it's just interesting that today is the day for the debate. We're going to get started with opening statements, and the way that's going to start is I am literally right now going to go over and draw names out of a bag for opening statements, which should last for 2 minutes. Thank you. First up is Kevin Bailey.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Daly, and I am running for the school board. I have been a member of the SC70 school board for the last year. I'm running for re-election for a few reasons. I've been a resident of Lincolnwood for 6 years, and I understand how important our school is to the overall health of the village. A healthy, functioning, vibrant school is the backbone of any community, and after just 1 year of serving on the board, I can see just how unique our school district is. As a member of this board, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with searching for the school's next superintendent, and the feedback from all the superintendents that we interviewed across the state with regards to Lincolnwood's School District 74 was amazing. Clearly we have something very special in Lincolnwood when it comes to our school, and I'd be honored to continue to serve as a board member. I'm also the parent of 2 children that attend Todd Hall. My son Luke is finishing 1st grade, and my daughter Katie is just finishing kindergarten this year. Being a school board member has been a very, very unique opportunity as a parent to be involved directly with my children in their peers' education process. I'm also the son of 2 educators that have a combined, they informed me today, 77 years of teaching in the Massachusetts school system. I appreciate the importance of education for our children, the importance of excellent teachers, and just how vital core curriculum is to the constant development of our children. I believe it's a school board member's job to make important decisions with the input of the community, the administrators, teachers, and other board members, and I believe I've done a good job in this task for the last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next up, Scott Anderson.
George, thank you to the Patch for hosting us tonight. Since June 2011, it's been my pleasure to serve you on the District 74 Board of Education. My wife, Demetra, grew up in this community, and we chose it as our home because of the quality of the schools. We have 3 girls. Evangelia is 5 and will start at Todd Hall in the fall. Nicoletta is 3, and Eleni is 1. The past 18 months have been challenging for our community. I'm looking out at a room full of familiar faces, and you folks remember. We had an unpopular building project result in litigation. We learned about years of irresponsible spending on the part of some administrators and board members. We had a criminal investigation that's still going on, and our referendum was defeated by an unprecedented margin. As George said, about a year ago, a bunch of administrators walked out the door. 2 board presidents resigned in the first several months of 2012, and I was chosen president of the board in May of 2012. In that time, the board has made changes that will improve transparency, prevent the problems of the past from happening again, and provide needed oversight and accountability. Some of our key changes included replacing the auditing firm for the district, replacing our general counsel, establishing finance and facilities committees with community participation, changing board policies about travel and expenses, posting board packets and bills to our website. We also resolved the litigation over Lincoln Hall. We paid down $7 million in debt, and we instituted a need-based levy that will limit tax increases. Next week, we will vote on a staffing plan that will reduce our budget costs for staffing by $500,000. These initiatives were narrowly passed by your school board. The full board did not support many of these initiatives. Through the hard work of some of my colleagues who are here tonight, Georgine Nickel, Kevin Daly, whose service on the board helped get these through, we were able to create these initiatives. I'd like to continue to implement these initiatives and continue to do the work of repairing our district. I ask for your vote on April 9, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Scott. Catherine O'Brien, you're next.
My name is Kathy O'Brien. I moved to Lincolnwood in the spring of 1999. I have a child in Todd Hall, I have a child in Rutledge Hall, and I have a child in Lincoln Hall. I've been an active member of the community over the last 14 years. I've had a Girl Scout and a Boy Scout troop, and I've served on various village boards for the last 6 years. I've spoken before the prior school board on issues regarding bullying in the past, and it's an issue that I believe we have yet to solve. I was a member of the lawsuit filed against the school district last year to force the school district to place the proposed new Lincoln Hall on the ballot as a referendum. I was the only resident with children physically attending District 74 to actively participate in the lawsuit. I'm running for the Lincolnwood School Board because I believe if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. This isn't about doing better, this is about doing what is right. This community needs to roll up its sleeves and do the hard work it takes to be a great community. We need businesses, seniors, and families with and without kids to work together to make a great community. The education of our children is part of the fabric of our village. It draws new families to our villages. It is an important part of creating a thriving village. I believe the statement, "for the kids," can be a very dangerous statement when it's used without common sense. I'm running for the school board so I can be part of the solution, to see that we don't do what's just right for the kids, but we do what is right. What's right for the village of Lincolnwood, right for the residents, what's right for the taxpayers, families, and more importantly, what is right for our children.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. And Georgine Nickel, finally.
Thank you to George Sleffo and the Skokie Patch for hosting this evening's candidate forum. Thank you to all the folks who came out this evening and to all those who are taking the time at home to watch this. My name is Georgine Nickel, and I'm running for the 2-year seat for the Lincolnwood School Board of Education. 2 years is what remains on this term due to a vacancy which was created when a previous board member moved out of the district just after the last election. I was invited to participate this evening, even though I'm running for an uncontested position. With that said, it's obvious that the votes cast will not alter the outcome for me personally. However, I feel it necessary to recommit publicly to our district and to our community. I have worked hard over the last 8 years as a board member, but I'm fully aware that the success of any governing body depends on the support and communication from all stakeholders and the commitment and cooperation of a well-focused board. I have lived in Lincolnwood almost my entire life. It's the only place my children have ever called home. And as a family, not unlike most of you who live here, many of our happiest memories are associated with people we have met through the years and are still very much part of our lives. My experience brings not only a historical perspective to the table, but having been through the system with 4 children, who are here tonight, I can share a unique insight on how to better prepare our students for high school and college. As a pre-K through 8 district, we are responsible to provide all of the building blocks necessary to be successful with those initiatives and in those institutions. A rigorous curriculum, integrated technology, enrichment through fine arts and music, and an assortment of extracurricular opportunities are just some of the programs I have supported and will continue to champion over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start off with questions that were submitted by the audience. Each member has 2 minutes to answer a question. If you have a rebuttal, simply just make eye contact with me and a rebuttal will be granted. The way we're going to alternate is we're just going to alternate from tables, so this table will go first, Ms. O'Brien, you'll be first, and then for the second question, Kevin, you'll go first, and vice versa. The first question, we're going to throw a softball over here, and it is, if elected, what would be your the first two issues that you'd like to see addressed. Again, if elected, what would be the first two issues you'd like to see addressed? Ms. O'Brien.
Okay, if elected, the very first issue that I would like to see addressed is actually the use of iPads in the school. I feel we have misused a tool, and we have chosen not to execute it properly, and by not doing so, we've actually created and placed in front of every student in the district a distraction. We know that iPads currently by students in Lincoln Hall are being used to play games physically in the classroom. We know the iPads are being used to text and email kids and communicate during the classroom when they're supposed to be watching the teacher. We know kids are physically bullying each other using iPads and text messaging, and yet, as a district, we know this, and we have not fixed it. And I find that completely unacceptable. I think when we know we have a problem, and we choose to ignore it, and we choose to let a situation continue that is harming our children, that's actually keeping them from learning on a daily basis, and we don't fix it, we have no one to blame but ourselves. And I think that's unprofessional and unacceptable, and we're doing that. The second item that I'd like to see improved is community involvement. Not just parental involvement, but community involvement. I think we need to open up the community to the school board, both parent and non-parent. I think we need people to be actively involved. I think we've had a past history with the board where we've been somewhat indifferent or unwelcoming to opinions and thoughts that were opposed by prior board, and I think we need to get past that. I think we need to open up our communication. I think we need to find ways to bridge that gap, and we need to actively engage the community.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Ms. Nichol. And if I could remind everyone, please speak directly into the mic for the recording on television.
I think it's important to note that this board, the makeup of this board, this more recent board, has done a lot, and I think that the initiatives that are on the table are strong and will be our first order of business after the election as well. We do have a staffing proposal before us that needs to be considered, and it will be critiqued by all perspectives by the board. We have a TIF issue that's on the table. The discussions are not as fluid as I would like them to be, but I'm hopeful that that will be remedied on or around the election. Personally, I think that our role is going to have to shift a little bit to help the transition be in a smooth way for the new superintendent. The superintendent will start July 1st. I think it's important for us to get as many loose ends as are still left tied up so that he can concentrate on what it is that we're going to be focusing on once the strategic plan gets in play. And I agree with Kathy about the community involvement, but that again is another initiative that this board has taken very seriously with the creation and the resurrection of boards that were already in place, facility and the finance. We're talking about creating another roundtable forum, not only for the community to participate in, but to have a little more articulation between us and the other feeder schools and the high school. We think that there's some alignment issues that need to be discussed and looked at. So to say that we have just a few things, it's not a lot of few things. There's a lot. It's a laundry list of things that we're going to do, and we can't do it unless we have the support of the public. But we need to do it expeditiously because, we're all very acutely aware that children are third graders 1 year, fourth graders 1 year, fifth graders. You can't do over. So you can't really, play around with time. It needs to be pretty expeditious.
Thank you, Mr. Daly.
It's not a softball question as far as, as a board member, what would I tackle? I'd like to think of it as sort of what Member Nichols said, which is continuation of what we've accomplished just in my 1 year on the board. I think we've accomplished quite a bit. I think when I came in, one of the biggest issues was the facilities issue. I'd like to continue to pursue issues with the Todd Hall, Lincoln Hall, Rutledge, those types of things that if we pursue those in a responsible manner, transparent manner, lots of input from the community and so forth, I think that those will alleviate a lot of the issues that were problems last year when I came on board. So again, that's more of a continuation of something that I want to focus on. The other thing is to, again, it's just a continuation of our core curriculum, the testing, science, technology, things like that. I think we've done an excellent job in the last year, again, of focusing on those issues that need to be addressed with our kids, and with Dr. Nash and our new assistant superintendent. She's done a phenomenal job with that, and again, continuation of that. And then on, just a side note, the financial issues, I think we've done a phenomenal job in the last year with our finance, superintendent of finance, Del Moon, as far as addressing the financial issues that, again, were sort of neglected, left to fester in the last year. Last year, I think we've closed a lot of holes that were there when we got in. And again, just continue with that, with it being as transparent and as I got the 30 seconds thing, and just continue with those types of issues.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Mr. Anderson?
The nice thing about talking last is you've heard what everybody else had to say, and you can just say, yeah, I kind of agree with some of that. But I'm going to be very specific about two things. One, if you ask a board of education, so you go around the state and you ask a board of education, what's one of the most important things that a board does? It's the hiring of a superintendent. If you don't screw up the hiring of a superintendent, a lot of other things flow nicely from that. A lot of the turmoil that you have is avoided. And we will be having a new superintendent start in July, and a big project will be handling the transition and making sure that we transition well to our new permanent superintendent. So a big priority is going to be working on that. Related to that is the strategic planning process. And we were talked out of doing that this year because of the argument being that we're getting a new superintendent. And a lot of discussions are coming to the board about our calendar, about our staffing, about our facilities, about our programming. And those decisions are being delayed in part because people are saying we should wait for a strategic plan. So I think the next step after we get our superintendent in is to really focus on our strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. So if you guys didn't think that was a softball question, I have a hardball question coming up for you guys now. Regarding Lincoln Hall, are you for building a new school from the scratch, renovating its current state, or neither? Just to remind everyone in the audience today, on March 20th, 2012, the referendum failed 9-1. And some residents said it was a reflect on not whether or not the school needed the new building or not, but they just didn't trust the current slate of candidates that were running them. So the question again is, are you for building a new school, renovating, or neither? Mr. Dale, you go first.
So to answer the question then, was tear down and build a new one, renovate, or leave it alone? Well, I think everybody that's watched the few board members that I agree with, we would say clearly that Lincoln Hall never needed to be torn down. I feel very, very confident in saying with the last few meetings and the fact that we've met with some structural engineers, engineering firms, architectural firms, lawyers that specialize in soils and everything else. I slept very well at night knowing that Lincoln Hall is a solid foundation, a solid building. It was not it wasn't a money pit, as some would say, and so tearing down just because, again, when I came in a year ago, I didn't know the condition, so I sort of came in with a very, very blank slate and listening to folks that I trusted and people that I consider to be experts would lead me to believe that it's a very, very solid school and does not need to be torn down. As far as renovated, was the last meeting we had some architects come in who gave us some ideas for some safety issues, some renovations, and those things that are on the table that should be addressed by our facilities committee, and those are certainly something that can be addressed. And just out of our last finance committee meeting last week, we do need renovations. We do need life safety issues that need to be addressed, and that's always going to be an upkeep. Whether or not folks believe that those are money pit issues, they don't seem to be. It certainly is maintenance issues, but it's maintenance for a school or a building that to me appears to be solid and very, very healthy building and has years left in it. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Mr. Anderson?
We have a facilities committee that has been formed. Ms. O'Brien is on the facilities committee. Ms. Nichols on the facilities committee. You're an architect. You know a thing or two about real estate too. We finally did the right thing. We involved people who have some experience, who have some background, some training that can help us with this process. And I think that's the right answer about Lincoln Hall. Let's see what this committee can tell us when they're digging in and really asking the right questions. And we're not coming at this from the angle of an administrator who wants to build a building and then making the case for it. Let's find out, let's start from the other direction. Do we need to renovate this building? Do we need to tear down this building? Let's look and see. So the process will start over. It has started over, and that's what we're trying to come to grips about. I don't know what the right answer is for Lincoln Hall. I'm hoping to find out what the right answer is for Lincoln Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. O'Brien?
No, I don't believe we need a new Lincoln Hall. Yes, the building is old, but it's safe. I spent obviously a great deal of time last year during the lawsuit reading way too many FOIA documents. And I did have the honor and privilege of reading every life safety report the school district had on file for each and every building. As an architect, I've walked the buildings, I've seen the buildings, I've read the reports. The buildings need maintenance. Every building needs maintenance, no matter what age it is, new and old. So yes, the building needs maintenance. As a parent with a child physically in Lincoln Hall, watching her child be educated in the building, in the structure, I again don't see how giving my son a different building to sit in is going to result in his quality of education being any different or improving. I would rather, knowing I have 2 more children coming up, literally the youngest in kindergarten, I would rather invest in the teachers, the curriculum, and the students than in a building at this point in time. I think there are a lot of wonderful old historical buildings. There's no reason we can't maintain Lincoln Hall at this point in time.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols?
That question was asked and answered this time last year, and I was thrilled that I was on the right side of the issue. I'm not very supportive of dollars going to anything other than our students. I agree with Kathy there, but I will tell you that it's going to take dollars to preserve the building, and we have to be realistic. The building is aging. There was a lot of deferred maintenance, unfortunately, so I think we're going to have to pony up some money. We're going to have a little bit of trouble getting some approvals from the state for health, life, safety money. We've been stalled with one of our amendments already. But I think that this board is very committed to not only preserving the building, but maintaining the campus as a whole. And as a member of the facility committee and attending the finance committee, I think it's doable. I think it's something that we're going to be able to accomplish in a very simple way. It's going to be something that we have to map out long term, because most of what we need to do will not be taken care of immediately. For example, again, kind of referencing back to what Kathy said, the technology in itself will require some modification of the building. Some of the buildings don't, they call it hot spots, where they're not able to facilitate, not necessarily just the iPads, but the smart boards and the using of the components, the handheld components that the kids are utilizing. So there's a lot to be said about that. And again, this is one of these times where we need to tap our community. We're rich in resources, where there are people in construction, there are people in the plumbing, there are people in the electrical field, architects. I mean, it's not something that that's going to be decided with just the 7 of us without the input from the community. It's your dollars, it's your schools. I mean, we ultimately will pay for it as taxpayers. So if we recognize there's an issue, I'm glad it's not going to be torn down. I will not vote for anything that is enhancing more administrative space. I definitely want the dollars targeted to instruction for students.
Thank you. Next question, going back to last year, some could argue that there was a lack of communication between the residents and the school board. If elected, how will you improve communication between the residents and the school board? And the question starts with you, Ms. O'Brien.
Yes, I do believe there was a lack of communication, but I also believe there was, by the board prior, and there are still members on that board, but an indifference and an unwillingness to hear other opinions. It wasn't even that there wasn't communication. There was a wall where the communication wasn't relevant, that it was, your opinion is different than ours, but we just don't care. I don't even feel that it was a matter of listening. I believe it was a matter of culture and mindset that was in the school board and also in the administration of the school district. It wasn't even that the school district felt they needed to listen. And I think that's what's hurtful. And I think it had been in place for many, many years. And now we have to take that wall down that was built over many years. So now we have to, as a school district, convince the community that we're not paying lip service to them. We have to convince the community to come back and participate in the school district. And again, it's not just parents. We always want to focus on the parents, but the school district belongs to the community, so we have to engage the community. We have to bring in volunteer programs, reading programs, where people can be of service, because there are people of varying ages and abilities and retirements and work levels that can be part of the school, and they need to be welcomed into it in different ways and programs. So I think part of our challenge is figuring out how can we make that accessible? How can we create programs where we can allow that insight to be brought into our district, and how to engage parents again, and more importantly the PTA, so that way we have a thriving community that's participating with the school, not watching the school.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. Georgine?
No one will ever accuse me of being quiet and not wanting to talk. That's most certainly the case with me. I've always advocated for more community input. There was a time last year where there was an attempt to reduce the audience to visitors to 1 as opposed to 2, which I thought was a huge mistake, and thank goodness wasn't adopted. I've myself been the chairperson for several roundtables, both with the community and other board educations from the area. And I agree with Kathy again, supporting the PTA. I mean, that is really where you cultivate the future of the district. That's where I came from, that's where other board members have come from. I mean, I can't say enough about the PTA, and unfortunately having lost the foundation this last couple of years, those weak links have absolutely had a negative impact on the school district. And I can't imagine whatever we wouldn't do would be a mistake. We absolutely need to work better whether it's the web, whether it's more meetings, whether it's even opening up our doors to allow more intergovernmental activity. I think that more has to be done so that the community is more engaged.
Thank you, Mr. Daly.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a tough question to answer because how do you communicate with the community? How do you communicate with the village? This school board level, and just sitting here thinking, how am I going to answer the question? I would go back and think, well, how have our meetings gone in the last few months? And they've gone quite well. We don't have very many people here. We assume that means there's not a lot of issues. Even audience of visitors has been very light, which would lead me to believe that we're doing a good job communicating, that people are getting their questions answered, and that there's a little bit more transparency and a little bit more knowledge from our board to the community of what we're doing, what our plans are, and so forth. Can we do a better job? I'm sure we can. I just don't have the answer to that. Georgine knows better than me, the involvement of the PTA and so forth. And, when we've pursued those, we understand too, parents especially today have got time restrictions just like everybody else, little leagues and everything else. So I think the best thing we can do is, and I think Kathy alluded to this, was just our attitude in being able to discuss these things with folks if they have questions, and not call our lawyers, talk to our lawyers, send a letter to this one. I think just having a different attitude to being open to answering any question that anybody would have, or talk to anybody, or talk to your neighbors, that would be my answer to just sort of making sure folks understand what we're doing. There's nothing secretive going on, and that to me would probably be the best solution, because the internet is there, our website is there. I don't think what are you guys doing over in the school, check the website, is necessarily a good answer either. So just keeping this communication open would be my answer.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Daly. Mr. Anderson.
You can have my 2 minutes, I'll just... Craig Klatsko is sitting in the back row, and I think he talked about Twitter, Facebook, and the internet, and at the trustees debate, and I agree with what he said. We need to be sending information. We need to be getting information out so people know what we're talking about. And if we're not talking about the right things, they can come back and tell us that we're not talking about the right things and that we need to be talking about other things. The village does a good job with the website that you can register for and you can get information sent to you. I think we should be doing that. We should be taking it even a step further. We need to make sure we're capturing our parents at a very early stage. Last year there was an issue about getting room parent lists together at the beginning of the year, and it didn't happen, and it should have happened, because we need to make sure that we're capturing parents very early on in the process and getting them involved. I think also if we make that attitude adjustment and we act as though we're interested in hearing what people have to say, and we back it up by being responsive and being interested in the communication, it will happen, so people don't feel like they're just talking to a brick wall. We've tried, I don't think we've fully succeeded, but we've tried to be responsive when people step forward and address us at audience to visitors, so that we're addressing questions that are being asked, so that we don't leave questions unanswered. And I think that's also an important part of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Our next question. What are each candidate's proposals for improving the achievement scores for Lincolnwood students? We're going to start with you, Mr. Daly.
Improving our achievement scores for our students. I'm not sure how to get our kids to get better scores. I assume that there's preparation, there's teaching, and there's studying, and there's focuses on things that need to be focused on. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna come up a little blank on this one. I'm not sure how to get our kids to have better scores
Are there any ideas or programs that you think that should be implemented to help increase student performance?
No, I mean, again, I try to stay abreast of what kids in the curriculums and stuff are doing, but nothing at the top of my head comes off as being able to better prepare our kids for scoring. So no, I can't think of anything right now.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Mr. Anderson?
I can't get enough of my school board service, so I also serve on the board of my church's school. I don't know why I'm doing that. But what they did is they implemented MAP testing a couple years ago. And we're a little behind in this, but we've just approved MAP testing next year. MAP testing is going to, it's not like that ISAT where we're talking about achievement testing. MAP testing allows you to assess students' performance on an individual basis, and it allows you to drill down deeper into what it is that individual student needs to help student achievement and student improvement. And I'm excited that we're doing that. It's also, as part of helping us learn to try to improve test scores, it's a computer-based test. So it will help our students as they take the standardized tests that the state is pushing upon us that are going to be computerized. So it's an assessment tool, but it's also a practice tool. And I think that will help improve test scores. But I want to caution everybody. We have a problem coming. The state is constantly changing what constitutes achieving its objectives. Our students meeting the yearly progress target that they're supposed to meet, and those standards are being increased this year. And so all across the state, you're going to see student achievement plummet. It's artificial, but it's going to happen. And so we're going to look like we're failing miserably. And that brings up another issue, which is we can't just focus on test scores. We have to focus on what our kids are doing. And Georgine tells me all the time, our kids are doing a very good job when they get to Niles West. There are some issues that arise, but in the main, our kids are well prepared for high school. And that's really our job, separate and apart from getting test scores up.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. O'Brien?
I have a list. There's truthfully a number of things that I think we can improve to help our children. First of all, I think we have to stop teaching to tests. I really have a problem teaching to the state tests. And I probably have that viewpoint for a different reason. One of the things we have to do, and this might not sound reasonable to begin with, but we have to reduce bullying issues that we have within our school district. We have to figure out how to socially handle the lessons that kids need to be taught so that kids can focus on school. Because kids will not focus on what a teacher is saying when they're receiving a message on an iPad that says you're a loser. They just won't. So we have to deal with that component, that social and moral component, whether we like to or not. I actually pulled my children out of Lincolnwood school districts for a year and a half because of bullying. I was that frustrated with this school district on it. What that showed me, however, was how different other schools teach. And what the big difference that I found is they really focus on fundamentals to a way we don't. We really focus on tests and teaching to test. Most of Rutledge Hall, in my experience, is teaching to a test. That's what I got out of it for my first two kids, is they learn how to take a test really, really good. Okay? But when they were outside this school district, they were learning cursive. We don't teach cursive in Lincolnwood. How is that possible that we don't teach our children cursive? I personally take exception to that. I think it's very important that they have that skill, yet we do not teach it. They leave our district without being able to write in cursive. I don't think that's preparing them for the future. I think we need to look at the University of Math program very aggressively and determine if it's really servicing the purpose we want, and I'm out of time, so I'll sit down.
Thank you for staying on time. Ms. Nichol?
See, this is a little bit where we may disagree, but see, that's good. We don't want to all be in lockstep, so I think it opens up the discussion, but there's a few things. I mean, Scott touched on it too. Our kids do very well when they get to the high school, and that's been pretty historically the case, and I credit the teachers. I think the teachers have been, in many cases, the glue that has kept us together, especially the last couple of years when things have been a little haywire. I do support the delivery of rigorous academic programming and effective assessment. You can't do one without the other and be effective. And I'm encouraged by the staff and their will and their desire to learn. I mean, by example, I think they set an inspirational tone in their classrooms. The curriculum's been changing, and so has our assessment process, and I'm actually very pleased with where we're at, because not only are we watching and assessing the progress of our students, but we are actually zeroing in on the assessment process and the delivery and retweaking it. We used to dump curriculum into the classroom, and off it would go until a lot of the material was outdated. Not at all the case. This has been going on an annual function, and I do credit Dr. Nashin for really kind of raising the bar with that. But I think it's important to inspire kids, and not to bring the facilities back into it, but that's another thing that we need to look at when we get into those facilities. You know, kids have to be inspired by their surroundings, by programming. I think that there's not a traditional way to learn anymore. I think kids are learning through the STEM lab example that we've seen over there that is really exposing the kids to technology and to math. And I also like the idea of bringing in more extracurricular. I think that some of the debate inspires kids. It becomes a carrot for them to do well so that they can participate, and I think that's a huge incentive for kids when they know that there's some kind of a reward. They find something that they like, and based on the way they perform, that will determine how they participate in those events. So could we do more? Absolutely. Is it changing? Absolutely. Am I comfortable that we're doing the right thing? Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Nichol. Our next question will begin with Ms. O'Brien, and the question is, what do you think can be done, if anything, to lower property taxes for homeowners in Lincolnwood?
I honestly don't want to answer that one. Okay, I think truthfully, we need to, first of all, we're paying a substantial amount of money that I don't truthfully see we're getting an investment or a return on our child's education. When I had my child outside this district and what I was paying for private school to what this district is paying, the disparity doesn't justify the difference in education at all. And I think we have to very aggressively look at that. I think we need to look at how we educate, not just from, unfortunately, the end of Lincoln Hall. I think we actually have to look to high school. I think we as a district have to determine, not actually even as a district, as a village of Lincolnwood, we have to really look and see, does it make sense for us to be utilizing Niles West as our high school? Are there alternative programs such as vouchers, charter schools, building our own high school? There are truthfully a number of very viable options that could save the taxpayers of Lincolnwood money. And I think we have to explore them, and I think it requires an honest discussion with the community, not the school district, but the community in whole, to explore some of those broader implications for bringing down the tax bills, because it's a collective tax bill between the two school districts.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Ms. Nichol?
I didn't have long enough to write all of my answer. I think it's shameful that public schools are solely reliant on real estate taxes. And that's something to think about when you're voting for some of these other races. And there's always the fear of consolidation, there's always the fear of reallocating the money, redistributing it. How can we hold it down? We're doing the best we can. And while the operating expenses per pupil may seem high, they are actually in line proportionately with what other districts are paying. We need to take a critical look at that TIF and the impact that that's going to have. I think that all of the taxing bodies need to take responsibility for that. And this board, again, I think we've done a good job breaking down the budget. We've looked at line by line where we could realign, where we can save. We're taking measures to make savings so that we can pass them along to you. And again, that's not lip service. We've done that. We retired a debt. We are looking at our staffing to make sure it's adequate and appropriate. We levied within reason, but there's only so much you can do when the structure is one that is solely reliant on property tax.
Thank you, Ms. Nichol. Mr. Daley?
Thanks. I unfortunately, Georgine took my answer, but I do agree with her 100%. If I were to answer my own words, I would say that as a member of our school board of 7, we're not going to lower people's property taxes. I don't think we have that capacity or that ability. What we can do is, again, on a management level, manage as responsibly and as transparently as we can. And again, I think we've done that in the last year, working on our finances and, like Member Nichol mentioned, retiring debt and so forth. I understand the component that education plays in property taxes, and I understand property taxes don't exactly go down; they go up every year as property tax payers. So if I am a property tax payer, I want to make sure that those taxes are going for things that I can see. And I would say I'm very, very happy paying my property tax, understanding that I have 2 kids at Todd Hall that are getting what I consider to be a phenomenal education. So I would like to, again, just as being a board member, trying to do what we've done, which is keep control of costs and try to prevent those big bumps in property taxes that do happen and have happened across the board, across the country, and just keep those in check and do it in a responsible way, but also understanding that it's a touchy issue.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
What can we do to lower your tax bill? We did lower your tax bill. We retired a debt service extension base that was set to continue into infinity. It's gone. As of August 2013, it will be gone. That will lower your tax bill. There are costs that we have that are fixed. A large portion of our budget is staff. We're locked into a contract for teachers through 2017. We signed a 7-year contract back in 2010. So while you hear school districts negotiating, CPI plus 0.5% or CPI plus nothing, I mean, whatever you're hearing out there, we're stuck with that till 2017. So that's something that we can't fix. Let me say something about TIFs. This district taxpayers in our community paid $1.3 million in 2011 alone for the TIFs that exist in this village. $2.2 million has been diverted from our district in 2009, 10, and 11. Now, the village has offset some of those costs, but that still left us with a shortfall of $1.1 million over the last 3 years. You want to lower taxes? Get out there and say something about the TIF proposal that's currently on the table and about refunding some of the money that's being held in these other TIF districts, because that will also lower your taxes. Finally, as I've said before, next week we are going to vote and $500,000 in staff cuts. That too will lower your taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Our final question. What hurdles do you foresee in reshaping District 74's image? I know it's been a year removed now, but we're coming up with a new school board. So on our final question, again, what hurdles do you foresee in reshaping District 74's image? Mr. Daly.
I don't foresee any hurdles. I'm actually very, very optimistic going forward. This is in part just, again, from the opportunity we had to interview, 7 or 8 superintendents from across the state. Not a negative word was said about the school district or its past or its issues that we had. It was nothing but positive, which made me feel good. It's almost like I can leave those things behind. And so there are no hurdles. We have, going forward, what amounts to a fantastic administration, a very, very talented and wonderful superintendent and assistant superintendent, and some new faces. So I think, and again, just from the few folks that I've had the opportunity to talk to, and some teachers and stuff, my sense is that there are no hurdles. I think a lot of the stuff that were wounds and little touchy issues, people are more than willing to let go of, and I think folks are again, optimistic about, day one, or, starting today going forward. I don't see any hurdles whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Mr. Anderson.
George, can I have that question one more time, please? Apologize,
What hurdles do you foresee in reshaping District 74's image?
District 74's image was well earned by horrendous management. So, I can't do anything about what happened in the past. What I can do is what's going to happen in the future. And what we've done in the last year has been try to fix that image. We didn't talk about what we were going to do, we just did it. We didn't talk about what can we do to make people like us. What we can do to make people like us is to do our job responsibly. Listen to people, be responsive, talk to people, make this a two-way conversation. That's what we can do. There are no hurdles.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. O'Brien?
I do feel we have a few obstacles. I feel our district's tendency to be reactive and not proactive is an obstacle that's self-created, in that we have to be slightly more proactive in our stance, more open to exploring options and ideas. We do have some obstacles with our community. We're very diverse, and we have to acknowledge that diversity. We have people from various ethnic backgrounds that may have never been exposed to a public school system, and they don't understand culturally what's expected and how they're supposed to interact with a public school. We have to educate them. We can't expect them to participate in our school district if they don't understand that there's actually a parental role that's expected of them, that there are things that they should be doing. And a lot of times families don't understand that. So we have to take the time to educate them. And we have to not wait for a situation to arise to be a problem. There are things that we can sit back and look at and say, is there an odd that we're going to have a problem? And then come up with steps to maybe alleviate or hopefully avoid it.
And finally, Ms. Nichol. Sure. What hurdles do you foresee in reshaping District 74's image?
I think we just press on. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. What's happened has happened, and I think this board has done an excellent job in trying to remedy some of the cracks in the system and some of the pitfalls that were created. The feedback's been very encouraging, I will say. I think that the community really stepped up in a very competent and responsible way, and the composition of this board has been so critical to the turnaround, and I think to the effectiveness of where we're going, that we haven't lost sight of what our responsibility is. It's to educate children and do it in a fiscally responsible way, and the guidelines set for us to do it are with policy and with the people that we've hired, and I think that we've made some excellent choices in all of those areas. So, hurdles, there's going to be hurdles. Like I said, there's no crystal ball, but I think that, you've got a composition of people, a governing body that is very committed, and we're ready to take, hopefully, anything that happens as long as the kids are safe and learning and happy, and we have the community kind of engaged and in our corner.
Thank you. As you all know, there are 7 candidates running, and there are 4 before us. So to the 4 of you, I sincerely thank you for attending. 2 of the candidates, I'm unsure why they are not here, even though they confirmed their attendance. That being said, if you'd like to address the audience, you have 2 minutes to give closing statements, and that should wrap things up. And we can start with you, Mr. O'Brien.
That's right. I'm going to be talking to them. I think we have come a long way in the last year, and I think it has been a lot of hard work by, some very active members on the school board. Most of them are obviously sitting right here, and I really do thank them for what they've done. The community has also been very active, and that was a big part of this. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. I mean, you don't just wave a wand and you fix something once and everything got shook out and now we're good to go. It's really hard being socially responsible in this day and age. I am not at 30 seconds. Okay.
That's 2.
Oh, 1 minute, okay.
No, she's got 2 minutes. Okay.
Had we had 6 candidates, she would have 1 minute, but we have 4, so
Okay.
she could have their time.
So I think a lot's been done, but I still think we as a district suffer from being reactive and not proactive. I think that's how we ended up in the problem with Lincoln Hall. We weren't proactive in our maintenance. We decided to let that slide to where all of a sudden there was like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, Bill. We shouldn't have let that happen. We shouldn't be letting our iPads and the use of technology in our classrooms slide. We see there's a problem, but we're not fixing it. Again, we're not being proactive, and we're choosing not to be proactive. And that's part of the culture that needs to continue to change. The change isn't just a change, it's an evolution. I started something last year when I was part of the audience sitting on the other side yelling at part of this group up there. And I do believe if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. And I could honestly come up with a whole lot of reasons, probably thousands if I really tried, on why I shouldn't be spending time doing this. Because life is busy for all of us. And the thing being that this community doesn't realize is that when you're voting for the people up here, and myself, you have to also be putting yourself on the line. You have to be dedicating the time and energy. This isn't just you voted and you're done and you did your part. This is a continuous process. This is year after year. And, I'm prepared for the benefit of my children to do this. I'm willing to take on that time and that responsibility, but I also have the expectation that everyone in the community is going to do their part. That this isn't a singular effort by 7 board members, but this is a community, the village of Lincolnwood, stepping up together, picking a direction and saying, yes, this is what we want, and we're going to stand behind 7 people and help you make it happen. Because 7 people cannot do it all, and we need everyone else to do it. So I'm willing to step up but I expect the rest of the community to do it with me. So if you wish to vote for me, that's great, April 9th.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Ms. Nichol?
My decision to serve 2 more years is in an effort to support and sustain the forward vision of this district and along with the initiatives that this current board has set forth. It's been a privilege to partner with some of the most professional, highly qualified administrators and teachers and support staff and a PTA that just works tirelessly. This last year has definitely been one of the strangest years of my life, but a wonderful year actually when I look back. We've had to do a lot of work to rebuild trust and re-engage a caring and supportive community. It's been an extraordinary experience, and I can't overemphasize the positive impact it's had on me, the schools, our family. Due to the efforts of a well-organized, articulate group of citizens, many who are sitting here this evening, and a very committed Board of Education, the focus is once again exactly where it should be. It's providing the best resources for students to learn, feel safe, and work to their highest potential. I pledge to continue on that path. I've always considered our schools the crown jewel of Lincolnwood. I believe what's good for the schools is good for the village and vice versa. There's no question quality education can be offered in a thoughtful and fiscally responsible manner, and there's just not enough I can say about the experience overall. So I'd like to thank the press and, of course, George and the Patch for covering not only this, but hosting all of the forums. I want to thank all of you who came out tonight and for all of the folks that are watching at home, and I hope they have a sound because I heard that they didn't initially. But to the candidates, at least to Kathy who did come, I want to just share something that someone shared with me who was actually here a little earlier and I don't see in the audience anymore, but they recommended that I not listen to the naysayers who say this is a thankless job. That sentiment will be dispelled each time you hear another wonderful achievement or accomplishment of one of our students or alumni. It really is very rewarding work. And thank you again to all of you for coming. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Nichol. Mr. Daly?
Thank you. I didn't prepare a say this. I'll just speak on a personal basis and say I've had a blast and I've really enjoyed the last year. It's been such a neat experience. I remember interviewing and asking one of the board members, what does the board do? I mean, I really didn't quite understand what they did and still don't, but I have a better idea of what they do. And it's a neat job. It really, really is. It is that volunteering of your time, but it's doing it for a reason which I think we all sort of share. I mean, education is important to all of us for one reason or the other, whether it's we have kids in school or we're children of parents or we're just, concerned taxpayers and so forth. It opened my eyes, and it really is a neat position. I've really enjoyed the last year, and I would like to look forward to another term. I don't want to focus again on those first 6 months when I came in, a year ago this month. Those 6 months and the last 6 months are night and day, and almost forgotten. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to meet some people and some teachers and people in the community that do reach out and do say thank you. And that's all it takes, really, to make you feel like, 1 o'clock in the morning in some closed session, it sort of makes it worth it. And so I've enjoyed my year, and that's why I'm running for another 4 years. I really did enjoy it. I like being involved with the school, and I would look forward to doing it for 4 more years.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. And in closing, Mr. Anderson.
George, once again, thank you for hosting us tonight. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It has been an interesting year. It's been an interesting 18 months for me. I've met some terrific people, both in our district and in our community, and it has been an eye-opening experience of how government works. When I was in college, I was on the Student Senate, and our motto was Cornell College Student Senate, where the politics are so rough because the stakes are so small. And we're in a different situation now. The stakes are very high in that we're trying to do what's best for the kids of our community and for the future of our community. And I thank everyone for the support they've given us to accomplish some of the things that we have accomplished. There's more work to do. I'd like to continue to do that work. I'd like to finish the job that we started, and I ask for your support on April 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
So, closing statement.
Thank you, the four of you, for showing up, and you guys thank me for hosting this. None of this would have been possible without the residents sitting here before me in the audience, so this would have never happened without the active members of the community, so thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. It was an interesting 18 months. I was with you guys at those board meetings till 1, 2 a.m., so that was absolutely interesting. I'd just like to remind everyone watching at home and everyone over here, tomorrow the mayor debate will be hosted live on TV. All three candidates have confirmed their attendance, and it should be interesting, and I would recommend getting here early for that one. So again, thank you, and if we could give everyone a round of applause, that'd be great.